Okay, so we got all this burnt on, browned in, and meat drippings and all of that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the stove off. Don't let it scare you. I know it looks kind of crazy. Don't let it scare you. Use a good pot. That's the key. Use a good pot. Now all of this onions and leeks and garlic and celery and thyme and all the stuff that I used to marinate it with, the stove is off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it right into the pot. This is going to steam up and help to kind of deglaze the pan a little bit. So just going to dump that right in. So take a look in the bottom of the pan. You see how it's kind of starting to lift up there? I'm going to cut my fire back on now. That was just to kind of get some of the juices, the burnt on, for lack of a better term, off. So here comes the fun part. We're going to add a little more flavor to it. Of course, it's been marinating in some seasoning, of course, but we're going to add a little bit more to it. So I'm going to first start off with a little, maybe about 2 cloves of garlic, a little bit of extra garlic. You can't have too much garlic. Maybe about a tablespoon's worth of just some sliced ginger. I didn't cut it into really fine strips because I want you to be able to pick it out if you want to. Another a trick that you can use if you want to leave it in there, just use your grater and grater it, and it'll be, the flavor will be there, but it'll just about disappear on you. I have here some 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and about maybe 4 tablespoons of flour, and I'm going to add that to the pot. Don't worry about the vegetables cooking all the way through. Trust me, as long as this oxtail is going to cook, the vegetables will be nice and tender when time comes. It does look kind of pasty and messy. Allow it to do that for about maybe just about 30 seconds. You just want to get that raw cooked off, raw flour taste cooked off of it. That's all. So you've pretty much made a roux with your vegetables in it. And what I have here is some cold water. This is 2.5 cups of cold water. I'm going to add half of it, stir it, see how that looks, whether or not I want to add the other half. Get it nice and combined, incorporated. The water is your friend, so a little bit later we're going to get us some more water. Okay, I'm going to add the rest of the water. And as you can see, kind of looking like almost like we're trying to create a gravy. Now in the meantime, you want to have your oven on 450 degrees. We are going to put our oxtail in the oven. Traditionally, and I'm going to say this for all my lovely Jamaican brothers and sisters and those of the islands, I know that traditionally we don't put the oxtail in the oven. But because it is a Wednesday night and whatever night it is, and just because we have such busy lives, we don't want to stand at the top of the stove, stirring oxtail every 15 minutes, adding a little bit more water, stirring it in. We don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to simplify it. This is my oxtail, Jamaican oxtail, with Reniel's twist. Okay, so I had this on medium heat, kind of been working for a few minutes now, and you'll look and you'll see that it is starting to thicken, but we have to remember that the oxtail beef releases a lot of liquid also. So that is going to eventually get added to here, but before we add this to here, and let me put this decoration out there for all of you who pleaded with me saying I went too fast, I didn't do the recipe or whatever. With this video, you're going to get your exact measurements, your exact amount, and so you'll be able to put it together. So, I have here, I'm going to add a little bit more thyme to it. Just because I like to see the thyme and smell it. And it adds good flavor too. I have here 3 tablespoons of tomato sauce. I'm going to add that to it. Stir that in real good. The butter beans, I'm going to add to it a little bit. But now, this is where we really get tricky. I don't even know what made me try this one day, because oxtail is just delicious on its own. I can't even tell you how I came about trying it, but I know I tried it one day and it was awesome, and I decided to do it again. So the secret ingredient, you all might be able to tell already, whether it be Lipton, I don't care what brand you prefer, it is simply 2 packs of beefy onion soup mix. Yes, it is soup mix. I know, sounds crazy. Jamaican oxtail beefy onion soup mix. I know. Trust me, I haven't steered you wrong. I'm not going to steer you wrong now. So it's 2 packs of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it to the gravy. Okay, I've allowed, you see that steam rising? I've allowed it to cook a little bit, get nice and hot. I'm sure it's at 165 degrees for all you health conscious, safety conscious people out there. I made sure it got there, so I killed some of that bacteria from the raw meat. And I'm going to taste the gravy just to make sure that it has the salt content that I want. The reason why I haven't added any salt to it yet is because of that beefy onion soup mix. I did add a little bit of seasoning salt in here, but not that much. I wanted to add the soup mix to kind of get the taste in my mouth and know where I'm working first, and then I'll add some salt. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add about a tablespoon of this all-purpose or seasoning salt that I made. You can use your favorite, Lawry's, whatever brand is out there, you can use. So we allowed it to simmer a little bit. Excuse, of course you all know I'm recording at home, so you might hear the occasional lawnmower, weed eater, car drive by, dog bark. It just kind of comes with the territory of being home. So, excuse that. But you see how it looks nice and thick? Got a nice little gravy working there. I think that tablespoon of salt was plenty. Seasoned salt isn't all salt. It's plenty. So, what we're going to do is going to add the oxtail back to the pot. I'm going to get half the oxtail in the pot, pour half the butter beans in, stir it, put the other half in. See what I'm talking about? Somebody's out there jamming. It's summertime. I'm going to pour half the butter beans in. You don't have to do the butter beans. That's strictly up to you, your preference. I love butter beans, so for me, I can't do it without. That gravy looks beautiful, doesn't it? Now we're gonna add the rest. It's good to have a nice sturdy pot, a pot that you can trust covering it and putting it in the oven. There's 2 ways we can do this. The traditional way, which is on the stove. You're going to cut your fire down real low. You're going to cover it. You're going to keep an eye on it. With the traditional way, I would cut back on the flour a little bit because it's on the stove, and the flour would thicken up and you don't want to run the risk of burning. So maybe a little later on in the cooking process, when the oxtail gets as tender as you want it to be, you can add a little bit more flour to thicken it if you want to, or if it's thick enough for you, then it's fine. You can use a pressure cooker. I've done that. In a pinch, pressure cooker is your best friend. Add the oxtail, put it in the pressure. After you've browned it, you put the oxtail in the pressure cooker with a little bit of liquid, a little bit of a broth or water or whatever it may be. Crank that bad boy up, and within 15-20 minutes your oxtail is tender and done. And then you just add your flour and whatever, thicken it up and make your gravy. Or you can do like what I'm showing you to do today. Once you've mixed it in or incorporated it all, add all your oxtail, mix it all up, put the lid on it, put it in your oven, and treat it like a roast. You're going to go check it, just like how you do your roast, once every 30 or so minutes. Once it's getting it's got as tender or close to as tender as you want it to be, you can pull it back out, stick it on the stove and finish it off, or you can just finish it off in the oven. It's really kind of up to you. Let me add the rest of that. Give it a stir. Oh, let me not forget to add the rest of that butter beef. Okay, you look at it, you can see that the gravy is rather thick, and anything in the oven has a tendency to kind of thin out, loosen up. I don't know if it's because it's cooking at a slower pace or whatever it is. Well, not necessarily at a slow pace, but I'm not sure why. Let me not lie about that. But when you put stuff in the oven, for some reason the gravy kind of thins out a little bit. But it is rather thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more water to it. I'll say maybe about another cup. Maybe a cup and a half, that was. And then, just like this, it's going in my oven. I'm guessing that it might take me about an hour and a half in the oven, because I did get them cut nice and thin. You have to account, some people prefer those bigger pieces. So if you get those bigger pieces, remember, the bigger the pieces, the longer it takes to cook. Also, the fresher the oxtail, the less time it takes to cook. So if it's an old piece of oxtail that's been sitting around forever, I don't suggest you get it, for one, if you know how to pick a proper piece of oxtail. But if it's nice and fresh, it probably won't take as long. But I'm guessing about an hour and a half, but maybe about 45 minutes in, 30 minutes in, I'll give it a check and we'll go from there. Going in the oven like this. This is a heavy pot. Going in the oven, center of the rack, close it up, and we wait for deliciousness.